What do you do if you feel as though someone is looking down at your abilities and lowering your self-esteem? So again, like someone looking down at you, I think it can be painful, it can be difficult, right? But you need to think to yourself, like, it's painful, it's difficult, and obviously it like hurts me and it's like hurting my self-esteem. But what does that really mean? Okay, what does it mean? Now, it might seem a bit silly, right? But like someone, like you asked this question, right? Imagine someone that I feel that you're terrible or you're horrible. Like, what impact does that have on your life? The answer is the only impact it has on your life is the amount of impact you let it have on you, right? So, for example, if you say, well, Muhammad Rashid, who is he? I don't care about what he said. I don't even like the guy. I don't care what he said. What happens? You don't really care about, like, my opinion of you holds no value, right? It's only when we care about their opinion that it affects us, right? So if someone's looking down at you, it's actually their issue, right? It's their issue. Like they're looking down at you, they're looking down at your abilities and stuff. It's their issue, right? You just carry on as you are. You need to question yourself. If someone says, look, Muhammad's really terrible at writing, you're really terrible at writing. Maybe I'll go, okay, you know what? Let me see if this point is actually valid, first of all. Am I terrible at writing? And I would question. I'll be like, look at your writing. Maybe I'd ask people, like, do you think my writing's bad? Like, actually understanding. And if it's like my writing is bad, I'm like, wow, like, JazakAllahu khair, thank you. Like, I thought my writing was good, and you actually helped me to realize that my writing's bad. So this is great. Thank you so much. And actually then doing something about writing, right? So that's if like there's a fault there. But if someone says your writing's rubbish, and I go around and everyone's like, your writing's amazing, I'm like, that person does not know, right? And that's it. Like, you have to have confidence in your own abilities. I remember there was a public speaking thing I was doing for Du'at, and I was a little bit nervous because I had some like famous Muslim personalities in the crowd, right? And so I was like nervous about teaching them because these are like scholars that I look up to, and I was going to train them on public speaking, right? Crazy. So I went through it, and the whole session I did, I felt like it was amazing. After the session, I was like really happy, Alhamdulillah. I didn't let my nerves get in the way, and I just did a really, really great session on public speaking and confidence and all these kind of things, right? Anyway, at the end of it, this brother, and I'm going to name and shame him, this brother Sabur, who I love very much and dearly, he's a very dear friend of mine. He came to me afterwards, right after the session, and he goes, Muhammad, there's something wrong. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you were completely off point today. Like, today was not good at all. Like, I don't know what it is, but there's something wrong. He said something along those lines. And I was like, what? Like, this guy just said that my whole like performance was like really terrible. And like, I was not good and I did it wrong and there's something wrong. And I just stepped back and I was like, okay, fine. And I just took his feedback. I went away. And I said, you know what? I know my own performance. I know how I've trained people. I know what I've done. And I know where this ranks in my own kind of abilities and my own performances. What he's saying is total rubbish. Like, I didn't say that to him because I appreciate he came to me, but I just felt like it was total rubbish. I'm like, look, I actually know the level of what I'm on, and I hold myself accountable. I don't need someone else to tell me that you've done a crap job. I will say it myself. I will know that I've done a really bad job. So I was just like, ignore this guy. Like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Anyway, like a day later or 2 days later, or whenever I saw him next, he comes to me again, Sabur, right? And he goes to me, he says, listen, Muhammad, remember that day when you did that training? I was like, yeah. He's like, remember I said to you that it was terrible and it wasn't good and all that stuff? I'm like, yeah, I remember it. He's like, well, I didn't really mean it. I'm like, what? What do you mean you didn't mean it? He said, yeah, I didn't really mean it. The reason I said it, because I wanted to protect you from like having a big head, because I felt like the training was amazing. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm glad you did it to me, because Alhamdulillah, like, it didn't really rock my confidence. I didn't really think much of it. I was fine with it, Alhamdulillah, right? But I'm like, if you go and do that to someone else, it could destroy them, right? If someone doesn't look at it objectively, it could destroy them, and they could feel like I'm done. I can't do this, So I'm glad that he recognized that, I could handle it and stuff. And I'm glad he did it, because, it did make me question. It probably had make me, less arrogant and more humble. But the point of saying this is that I think that, you need to really, really look at what are they looking down at. Is it something you need to correct? If it's something you need to correct, you need to work on it. If it's not something you need to correct, then that it's good, and you can maybe have a discussion about it. Maybe you can discover more about it. But sometimes it's the last thing to look out for here is that sometimes you think someone's looking down on you, but they're not actually looking down on you, right? You just think, oh, that person's looking down at me. Is that kind of typical example where I'm sitting here, two people sitting there, they're kind of like laughing and whispering, and I'm like, oh my God, why are they talking about me, right? I'm not saying this is all in your mind, but I'm just saying, just make sure that they actually look down on you. No better way than to say, Muhammad, do you look down on me? And I'll say, no, of course I don't. Except if you're sabur, then I do look down on you.